Head over to thebestsongever.com and purchase our new hit, Together Again. It is a cover of Smokey Mike and the God King. That's Jeremy Boring and Michael Knowles. And with your help, we will smash our way onto the Billboard charts. We have this tweet from the Colorado Republican Party that I saw.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Democrats love to let criminals loose on the street. This is what happens when you elect woke crime huggers to power. The Simpsons prediction certainly stands the test of time. I am in love with this clip. You ready?
I'll be back. You can't keep the Democrats out of the White House forever. And when they get in, I'm back on the streets with all my criminal buddies.
I love that. With all my criminal buddies.
Can I make a point?
Yeah.
It was Trump who had the criminal reform and let out a lot of people.
Yeah, but that's not.
I'm just being.
But that we like the criminal reform.
I know.
What we don't like is when they arrest salon owners and then literally unleash violent criminals into the cities.
What I don't like is when people who are like Kyle Rittenhouse and the guy in New York, I don't remember his name.
Daniel Penny.
Yes, who are doing the job the police who are ostensibly supposed to be doing are the ones who pay the consequences and are traumatized for life.
Luke has a video about this from a decade ago, where a guy was stabbing people on the metro in New York City, and the cops were like, I'm not getting involved. And there was a court ruling that police are not obligated to save you.
That's the case, yeah.
Yeah, and so this guy intervenes and gets stabbed several times in the head and stuff, and then stops this. As soon as he subdues him, then the police come in. But they were like, I'm not going anywhere near that knife.
What about what happened in Britain recently with the the pro-Palestinian marches and the guy who tried to stop them, who was like a British patriot? He got arrested. Yeah.
Of course. There's
you say of course, but I don't think I don't think a lot of people realize to what extent it's screwed up.
I mean, we talk about it.
Sure.
Dan Dix, do you know Dan?
No.
Journalist. He was in Canada and there was a protest. He showed up to film it. They started screaming and attacking him, so the cops threatened to arrest him. I think he got detained and then removed. It's like the innocent guy who shows up doing nothing is attacked, and then you defend the attackers.
Not just innocent, heroic.
Yeah. This is what I've been warned about is coming. When the guy in Wisconsin had BLM show up to his house, his private residence, protesting, and he brandished a shotgun, the police showed up and arrested him, and BLM cheered for it. They don't want to abolish the police. They want the police to just arrest you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I mean, that's been crystal clear from day one.
Definitely. I mean, I think one of the issues has always been that the marketing tactic says one thing, but the demand is something else, right? They just want certain people to be allowed to do things that they want. They are willing to excuse your violence or your lawlessness if you support their idea of who should be forgiven.
And once again, the first people who are going to be the victims of violent crime are going to be the poor.
Yeah.
Like, it just goes back to that again. They're the most likely to be killed, raped, whatever, all this other stuff. And they're the least likely to have access to legal services to have some kind of retribution or justice. It's horrifying.
Well, and then they're trapped in communities that have all of these issues, and we never find a way to solve them because ultimately we're funding it by saying we don't need to really investigate these causes. We'll just say, here's money, we'll fix it. Also, we'll let you out of jail, go back in the community, we'll never address the core issues. It's just
and it just drives me crazy, this hand waving from conservatives, like, well, they shouldn't have voted Democrat. Fine, I'm stuck in the projects. I hate this. Like, my life is screwed. I go and vote Republican. What's going to change? Everyone else around me is voting Democrat. What am I supposed to do?
This system's been busted for 100 years.
Move, I guess, but I can't afford to. I'm in the projects. I can't afford to move.
Yeah,
and not everyone who's poor is poor because of choice that they've made.
But this is another important distinction. A person who has a house is not poor relative to someone 100 or 200 years ago.
Absolutely.
And so it's interesting to see that people are now saying, like, I can't move. I can't afford to move. And I'm like, do you live somewhere? Yeah, I live in government housing. Right. I'm like, there's this great line in Fast and Furious 4 where the bad guy says...
Would I follow this line if I haven't seen the first three?
Yes.
Okay.
He said, I'm paraphrasing, but he says, if I give them things, they become dependent upon me, and then they serve me. And so these people who are like, yeah, I know that what's happening in my city is wrong. I know what they're doing is evil, but I can't move because I'm stuck here. And it's like, that was the plan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes.
You are dependent on them, and now
plan.
they beat you, and you can't do anything about it.
Right. Except for cheer for them.
Right. There's an article I read a while ago about a study on universal basic income, and they were trying to find women, I think in Jackson, Mississippi, to come be a part of this UBI test for like a year. And when they were approaching women, they were like, well, the thing is, I don't want to lose my benefits because once I have them, it's difficult. If I lose them, it's difficult to get back on them.
Yeah.
So it's better to maintain them for as long as I can. And that's a really interesting system, right? Because ultimately, theoretically, any sort of social service like that would be to help you for a small amount of time to get back on your feet, to be able to, and that's not the way it works out in reality.
And if it was more of a private charity system, they would be much more hands-on. You'd have more one-on-one relationships or 1 to 10, maybe some kind of classes, and they would be focusing on transitioning people from poverty into some, like there's this great charity that Penn Jillette worked for when he was on The Apprentice twice called Opportunity Village, where people who are like who are mentally disabled, it's like in Vegas, they give them jobs. So like they made Elvis's costumes. Like they're not going to be able to build rocket ships, but they can have some dignity. And
they can mine cobalt.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, unemployment should be you get some little bit, but then if you get a job, you get more. And then that lasts for 6 months. And then you're only eligible every 5 years to get that path or something. There should be an incentive to get a job.
But we could also have this off in schools, right? Like we could have high schoolers who are all graduating with the requirement that they have some level of financial literacy, that they understand the consequences of credit card debt, of student loans. But we don't do that, right? And the obvious example with student loans is that the government wants you to agree to take out student loans, which are crippling, that at 18 you may not know the consequences of, and that you are dependent on them. You are waiting for Joe Biden to forgive them, and hopefully he will, and maybe if we vote for him again, he'll finally forgive the student loans that are ruining my life.
Or transition from college is this liberal arts idea of this like 1890s creating the next generation of elites to have more of a mentorship apprenticeship program.
Agreed.
Instead of 4 years at Yale, I'm spending 4 years at some company and I'm starting from the bottom and I have a mentor within the company who teaches me the ropes.
I got an idea. Abolish public schooling.
Well, that's a little extreme, Tim.
I'm for it. Are you for it?
Are you kidding me? That's the first thing I'd abolish.
Okay, then. So we're in agreement.
Number one.
Yes, public schooling is gone.
Government schools are literal prisons for children,
yes,
and the only
agreed.
place many people ever encounter violence in their lives.
You ever see the story about the kid in Chicago?
They're literal prisons.
The kid in Chicago who was locked in a padded room, and then they wouldn't let him go to the bathroom, so he crapped himself and was crying. A school in Chicago had a padded room to lock kids in.
I remember there was audio where he's like, "Please, I'll be good. Let me out."
Yep,
you could hear
that's
the
right,
kid
crying.
Some of those are like daycare, like parents that work.
They're
or
all
single
daycare.
parent. Yeah, so if you abolished it, all those kids would be homeless essentially.
That's why we have a lot of work to do. No fault divorce, gone. Okay.
19th Amendment gone.
Well, I don't know about that. 17th Amendment.
Which
for sure.
was that?
The senators are elected.
Oh, that's a no-brainer. Yes.
I was talking to some Missouri
but
state
DOE
rep
gone,
saying,
public education gone, all that.
Yeah. I was talking to some Missouri state reps saying this should be the thing that you make your bones on. You should get rid of no-fault divorce in your state because as soon as one state does it, all the other states will follow. I think this is something the culture really wants to change. And we see that the argument like, oh, people don't believe abuse or whatever else, like those things are so different in the modern era, and restructuring the family and creating social support systems that begin at home is really important.
There was a story that since the overturning of Roe,
no-fault divorce, if you take that away, you're going to be getting a lot more rape accusations for innocent men. Because why wouldn't women play that card?
Right, that's a cultural problem.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
But say levy.
I don't think say la vie when if you're gonna. I mean, this is a moral hazard. That's a problem.
Right, but like
men who go through divorce
women will
right
commit
now,
crimes. Therefore, we should not fix the system. I didn't
say. I'm just saying, if you're going to tear down a fence, you should be aware why it was put up and what the consequences.
Yeah, and if you're
not just anticipate.
If
them.
your dream
I don't think
is,
the fence was put up because people were concerned about false rape accusations. I think the left is trying to just destroy this country.
Sure, but what I'm saying is, I think people in this country generally are not used to the concept of trade-offs.
Right.
And just because something is a good thing doesn't mean, like the idea that, for example, let's suppose the vaccines were actually prevented COVID and COVID was deadly, but you're probably going to get the flu for 2 weeks. It's a cost, but it's a cost you're willing to pay because the cost outweighs the bigger cost, right? So, but people don't think in those terms. Like you can't say like, this is something you have to do, even though it's going to hurt a little bit. It has to be, this is something that has to do, and there's never a cost to it.
it's called opportunity cost in economics.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
I think the issue for humans is that they only ever want to drift towards the path of least resistance. And so the reason why you have wokeness today is that all that is required for evil to triumph is that good men do nothing. So when the woke left starts causing destruction, damage, pain, and suffering, it is easier just to bow your head and say, let it go, choose your battles, and now here we are.
Another big problem is when people become obsessively goal-oriented, and it's like, I want that goal at any cost. If the goal is to remove the fence, how's that going to, really what we should be doing is making a plan as to how we're going to take that fence down, because there's a lot of ways the fence could get removed. There's a lot of ways that the Department of Education could disappear. And one of them would be like the United States disappearing, or like a global
Now you're speaking Michael's language.
So we got to be real careful about how we're going to disassemble this thing if we want to do it and still maintain semblance of peace and order.
There's a book by Carol Markowitz and Bethany Mandel called Stolen Youth, which I just read. And, I think most of it's hard, like you think that a lot of the stuff that's going on in schools, like right-wing propaganda and people frothing at the mouth, but the receipts you see and talking to parents about what's going on in schools, because we're not in school, so we're kind of oblivious to it. It's all everything's secondhand. It is so effed up. I don't even know where to start.
Right, and then the left lies and says it's not happening.
And the media covers for them, even though it's like, here's the book, here's the receipts.
They go, nope.
Information's good.
I don't, blah, 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 blah.
Yep. Math is good, but like a lot of that stuff, it was real America-centric. My history lessons, Columbus sailed the ocean blue and discovered America. Like, I don't think we need to teach our kids that in the future. I'm open to like living on a farm in some foreign country and just teaching the kid how to farm and eat fruit and like identify plants and like the real important stuff.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.